On Monday, Canada started a fight with India. Justin Trudeau stood up in their parliament. He spoke about the death of a Khalistani terrorist. He tried to lay the blame at India's doorstep and expelled an Indian diplomat. New Delhi reacted with fury. In a tit-for-tat move, it expelled a Canadian diplomat. Then Trudeau sought help from his allies. He wanted a statement of condemnation. The move boomeranged. Instead of support, he got a question. Where is the proof of India's involvement? And 3 days later, Trudeau's strategy is unraveling. He was hoping to corner India, but with his stunts, he's painted himself in a corner. Take a look at this.
Prime Minister, India has rejected your allegations.
That was Justin Trudeau at the United Nations General Assembly avoiding questions about India, but he cannot avoid the scrutiny. India made a bold decision today. It suspended visa services for Canadians, meaning Canadian citizens cannot apply for an Indian visa now. The decision was made public this afternoon. There was no press release. The applicants found out online. India engages a visa service provider for Canada, a company called BLS. They take the applications on India's behalf. BLS collects the filled forms and delivers them to the Indian mission. Here, a visa officer reviews them and takes a final call on whether someone should get a visa or not. That is the procedure. Now, BLS has stopped taking any more applications. Their website has a flash. This is what it says. Important notice from Indian mission due to operational reasons with effect from 21st September 2023. Indian visa services have been suspended till further notice. Later in the evening, Indian officials spoke about this. There was a formal statement. It came from India's External Affairs Ministry. It said Indian diplomats in Canada are under threat. So they're facing operational difficulties, which is why they closed the visa services. And just like that, India shut its doors on Canadians. How many come to India? In 2021, about 80,000 Canadians visited. Before the pandemic, the number was around 300,000, 3 lakh people in a year. Will Ottawa respond in kind? As of this evening, there was no announcement. But we won't be surprised if they do. Diplomacy, you see, works on reciprocity. If India makes the visa process easier for Canada, Canada responds in kind, usually. If one side cancels visa services, a reprisal is almost certain. You may recall what happened on Monday. When Trudeau went public with his charge, Ottawa asked a senior Indian diplomat to leave. India responded in kind. A Canadian diplomat in New Delhi was also asked to leave. And in the days ahead, more Canadian diplomats could leave India. Not because India has asked them to, but because Canada says they're adjusting their diplomatic staff. It claims that they've received threats on social media. Canadians have received threats on social media, and the Canadian mission wrote about this to the government of India. Reports say they want additional security. But what about the security of Indian diplomats in Canada? They face threats from Khalistani groups all the time. You may remember what happened in July. Posters were being circulated in Canada. They had photos of Indian diplomats with words like "Kill India." And who was behind these posters? Khalistanis, the supporters of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, the sanctioned terrorist who was killed in June, the one for whose murder Canada blames India. Nijjar was part of a separatist campaign. They were holding referendums in Canada asking for a separate Sikh state to be carved out of India. He was shot in the month of June. Indian diplomats were threatened in July. And when did Canada respond to these threats? In August. They took a whole month to respond when the safety and security of Indian diplomats was at risk. They released a statement promising to keep all Indian diplomats safe. But they're not safe. Today, India complained about their safety once again. So little has changed. And behind the scenes, New Delhi is talking tough. Reports say Indian officials have spoken to their Canadian counterparts. On the death of Nijjar, India has asked for proof. What about joining the Canadian investigation? Will India join it? They're yet to take a call. They want to see what kind of proof Canada comes up with. Now, one thing is clear. India and Canada are on a collision course. The diplomatic relationship has more or less collapsed. This is Trudeau's train wreck. Meanwhile, more stories of his India visit are coming out. It was a disaster. Apparently, before Trudeau flew into India, the Indian side had made some arrangements. just like they did for all other leaders. India offered Trudeau the best hospitality. A presidential suite was booked for him in a 5-star hotel in New Delhi. But guess what? Trudeau refused to stay there. Instead, he asked for a different room, a smaller room. We don't know why. Then Trudeau's plane broke down. You know about that. His plane broke down. New Delhi offered the Air India One to fly him back to Canada. Now this plane, Air India One, ferries India's president, vice president and the prime minister. It's the best that India has, and Trudeau was offered the same plane as a goodwill gesture. Again, he refused. He chose to remain stranded in Delhi for 2 days. He left only when his own plane was fixed. Why did Trudeau refuse Indian hospitality? Was it out of precaution? Was it because he knew that he would be picking a fight with India? Or was he afraid that he'll be snooped upon? We don't know, and Canada has not bothered to explain. They're busy frying bigger fish at the moment. Another gang war in Canada. Another killing has been reported. A gangster has been shot dead. His name is Sukhdev Singh Gill. He was shot in Canada's Winnipeg. Gill too was wanted in India. India's National Investigation Agency, NIA, was looking for him, and he faced some serious charges like extortion and murder. So who killed Sukhdev Singh Gill? A rival gang has taken responsibility, and this has been a trend in Canada, the increasing incidence of gang violence. In 2021, there was a big surge. More than 700 homicides were reported, 700. A quarter of these murders were related to gang wars. This is the highest number of killings related to gangs in the last 16 years, and that is the story of Canada. Appeasement of terrorists and separatists leading to a growing crime rate, and their Prime Minister picking a fight with India over the death of a Khalistani. What about the efforts to catch Niger's killers? Canada says the investigation is on, and at this rate, they're beginning to sound like a broken record.